So we're all good. But let's get into this Stefon Diggs thing. Did the Texans make a mistake when it comes to the handling of the Stefon Diggs situation and what we know now? Was it a mistake to not bring back Diggs? Was it a mistake to make the trade in the first place? From the perspective of the Texans, I don't really fault them for doing what they did and bringing in Stefon Diggs. They felt good about their receivers as was. They were kind of swinging for the fences. And essentially, they traded back 19 spots to get Stefon Diggs. So, like, in the moment, you kind of understood what they were doing. And early on, we saw Stefon Diggs, and Stefon Diggs was playing at a decent level. Now, when you start to talk about voiding the contract, creating $16 million of dead cap, like everyone says it was a rental and it was only 1 year and blah, blah. Yeah, that's fine. But you're still paying how much ever you're paying with dead cap. So Stefon Diggs is going to be getting paid by the Texans because of the way in which they voided the contract. You gave up the second round pick. We can go back and forth and say that they knew they were going to trade the second round pick in the first place. But knowing what we know now, it's just one of many examples of them kind of failing to capitalize on CJ Stroud's rookie deal. I think that is the number one thing. Knowing what we know now, they failed when it came to capitalizing on CJ Stroud's rookie deal. And now you have the New England Patriots, who essentially they're getting a similar version to what the original deal was. So from Diggs' perspective, too, he probably would have liked to have had the original contract, although he got a little bit more guaranteed money. But from the Texans' point of view, you have nothing to show for Stefon Diggs. Wide receiver is currently one of your biggest issues. You had the bad luck where the guy in his 30s gets injured, and you have nothing to show for it. So from the Texans' perspective, I don't think it's too harsh, and I don't think it's out of line to say that, yeah, it didn't work out. It didn't go according to plan. Now, should the Texans have brought him back? That's another question. I don't think at that price you should have brought him back. And if you were going to bring him back, you probably should have done it before the voided contract went into next year. Once that decision was made, it really didn't make a lot of sense to bring Stefon Diggs back. I also think this is something else that we got to get used to. Much like there used to be a Patriots tax and there was a Jags tax, or a Texans tax and a Jags tax, I think there's a Patriots tax now, where the Patriots have to overpay guys. It's not a very attractive place to play at the moment. They also have Mike Vrabel. One of the downfalls in Tennessee for Mike Vrabel was that he was going to they got rid of A.J. Brown, and he was kind of pissed off about it. So we got to bring that up. Let's see if the stick mic works now that we have the road ready. Let me know if this sounds all right. Hold on. 111. We good on this now? Or is this still not good? I'm trying to test out the stick mic and see if it can be a thing. Give me thumbs up if the stick mic is straight. All right, good. Cool. All right, so we can loosen up a little bit. So there we go. Shout out to the Roadcaster. It's a good thing. Roadcaster is great. Just when you have to reset it. And the reason we're going to reset it is because we're going to play a game in the spirit of the Stefon Diggs thing. I had to add some stuff to the soundboard. So we're going to play a game called Dead or Alive. So we will play that game in a second. And that's why the Roadcaster had to be reset up. But this Stefon Diggs thing is interesting. You essentially gave up a second round pick. You traded back 19 spots. That's about similar cost. And you got a guy for less than half of a season. and you didn't bring him back. It's not good business. It doesn't look great. And I think you can understand like what the line of thinking was and what the ideal scenario was, but it's not good business. And let's just be honest, there's also a little bit of bad luck involved in that you probably anticipated at least having Tank Dell in his third year and being able to figure stuff out. But now you're looking at the Diggs thing and you're saying, okay, now we only have one receiver. So I think it did not go very well for them, but I don't think they should have brought back Stefon Diggs. That's a hell no to me. I'm good on that. Now we will see how he does in New England, what he looks like when he plays. But the Patriots got to pay. Patriots are desperate. Patriots are where the Texans were at this point last year. Now the Patriots didn't have to trade a draft pick for him. But their wide receiver situation is worse than the Texans. Their offensive line might be worse than the Texans. So they've been overpaying guys in Costco bulk this year. So bye-bye to Stefon Diggs. But bringing him back, no. Bringing him in, yes, mistake. And we'll see what he does in New England. I'm not anticipating Stefon Diggs to just set the world on fire in New England. I was watching a Cowboys show today on All City, and they were talking about Diggs, and it just turned into a big Cardi B roast type of joint. I don't think they were really taking it serious. It was Clarence Hill, and it was Jesse Hawley and Kavanaugh and the other guy they got with them, and it just turned into kind of a roast. So Stefon Diggs, bye. I agree that letting him walk was the right decision. I didn't even hate the move when they made the move, but it didn't play out. Like, just this is always my discussion when we talk about whether a move was a good move or not. I think you can understand what their line of thinking is. There's like 3 different ways. I think you understand what their line of thinking was when they initially made the decision, how it played out on the field, and then you can use the benefit of hindsight. I think that's 3 different ways. People always say, well, hindsight's 2020. Yeah, no shit. Of course it is. But my way of always kind of discussing one of the 3 layers of whether it was a good move or not, whether it's a trade, whether it's a signing, whatever, is if you gave the front office a time machine and they could go back in time, would they make that move again? The answer is no with Stefon Diggs. So we can see that. They tried, they swung for the fences, didn't work out. Bye-bye. We'll see what happens with Stefon Diggs. This stream was initially going to be a discussion about whether the possibility of Stefon Diggs returning was dead or alive. That was what it was going to be, and we were going to do other topics. And if you have any topics in the chat, just put before your question dead or alive, and I'll try to answer it, try to be interactive in this exercise. Because we are kind of, I think the next 2 weeks when it comes to NFL content, and this was the case being on the radio for 7-8 years in town, and then doing the digital thing for now creeping up on 3 years. There's not really very many slow times when it comes to NFL content. But I do think like until you get into April, like the week of March, the last week of March into maybe like the beginning of April is the slowest time in the NFL. Because you have the tournament, NCAA tournament, which people are into. MLB opening day is starting. And it's kind of that awkward, long wait between draft, which the speculation never goes, and free agency. It's kind of like the week between the Super Bowl, where it's kind of like all the storylines are dying. That's kind of where this kind of is. But there's always something happening in the NFL. And we had some stuff go on around the NFL today as well that you can kind of localized NFL news, if you will. Some impacts the Texans significantly, and some of it could impact the Texans significantly. And we'll get to that at the end of the show, but it involves the most important position, and we know what the most important position is, the quarterback, which is where we'll start in the dead or alive, game. And I see some of y'all putting some dead or alive stuff here. And we'll get into those. But let's start with CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud being an elite quarterback, dead or alive. Now, last year at this time, we were basically putting CJ Stroud in that second tier, right below the Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. And some would rightfully say, well, maybe it's a little too early for this. And I don't disagree with that, but based on the only sample size that you had, where else would you put him? Based on what we had to see, like, where do you think Jaden Daniels is right now? Putting Jaden Daniels in that tier. You can come plummeting down quickly, but you put him right there in that tier. And we saw what happened with CJ Stroud. A lot of it was surroundings. Yesterday, we talked about the uncertainties of CJ Stroud. And I said, and I brought up, and the whole point of the uncertainties of CJ Stroud was not to crap on CJ Stroud. The whole point and the whole visual of last night's exercise, and I think most of you picked up on it, was CJ Stroud can control what he can control, which is what he said that he wants to focus on next season. But that's not going to be enough to reach his full potential and to get where people around here and people in that building want him to be. The most important things on top of controlling what you can control are going to be who's blocking for him, who's he throwing to, and what system is he running. Those are the three most important things. You can make a case those are the three most important things when it comes to a quarterback. Now, the defense can help you. The run game can help you. But who's blocking for you? Who's protecting you? Who are you throwing the ball to? And who's in charge of your system? Those are three very important things. Controlling what you can control is great. It's probably really good for the mental side of things. But you got the organization has to do their part as well. So as far as the CJ Stroud elite talk being dead or alive, I'm going to go ahead and cop out and say it's a tie. I'm going to say it's alive. And I'm going to say it's dead. And let me explain this. I don't think we should be talking about it at this point, whether or not CJ Stroud can be elite. I don't think he's in that second tier heading into this season. I think we need to see a lot of things. I think there's some things that he needs to figure out, and there's things that the organization needs to figure out. But I'm not ready to just completely dismiss the possibility. There's going to be some stuff during this exercise, the Dead or Alive exercise here in the locker room. Be sure to like the video as well. Subscribe to SNL. We got our draft party popping on day 3 of the draft. We're going to do a super stream too. We're going to have probably 12 hours the first 2 days of the draft of the stream on SNL. It's going to be a mofo. We got you covered. But I think the CJ Stroud elite talk, I don't think you completely dismiss it. I mean, I haven't seen enough to say, there's no hope that this guy's ever going to be elite. But it's not really stuff that he can control. We got to see what it looks like. how it plays out, what system. I mean, we don't even know what he's run. They could go out there and run the fucking wishbone for all we know. Like, we don't know what they're doing. We don't know what they're doing at receiver. We don't know what these linemen are going to look like. We don't know if Nick Caley's an idiot. We have no idea. So I'm not dismissing the possibility, but I'm also not discussing the possibility. Last year, we were all in on this discussion. We were all in on it. Right now, it's just sit back, figure it out, sit back and watch. So when it comes to CJ Stroud being elite, as we play dead or alive here, I'm going to sit on the fence and I'm going to say it's both. Say it's both, dead and alive. Let's go to one in the chat. Dead or alive? Dylan says, dead or alive, Anthony Richardson's future as a tight end. I'm going to go ahead and say that that's dead. I don't think Anthony Richardson can stay healthy enough to play tight end. And that was one of the things that I don't think was talked about enough. Now, we go back to the draft in 2023. I was a Bryce Young guy. I was a Bryce or bust guy. Admittedly so. But the one thing that I thought was the most annoying, and the one thing that I got the most right, and we can say I was wrong about Bryce. I have no problem being wrong. But the thing that was driving me the most nuts was there was talk about Bryce Young and his durability and being able to stay healthy. He missed one game in college, and he knows how to protect himself. Anthony Richardson, y'all heard me saying this before. He missed the game because he hurt himself dancing the night before. He had a concussion, he had a shoulder injury, and he had knee surgery. So I think Anthony Richardson is going to be one of those journeyman backup type of dudes, maybe like another version of Trey Lance, probably a little bit better than Trey Lance. But I don't think Anthony Richardson's tough enough, and quite frankly, I don't know that he loves football enough to be able to play tight end. I put a lot of stock in what McAfee says about Anthony Richardson, and you can just kind of tell that he's not big on LaFar Jackson. He doesn't think much of him. By the way, thank God this is the one draft where they're not comparing someone to Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. Feels like it's been a while there since we haven't had at least one quarterback compared to Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. But no, I don't think Anthony Richardson can be a tight end. I don't think he loves football enough. Next, dead or alive. And this one's interesting. Because let's go back to last year. Who were we talking about? And I'm going to say we. A lot of times I don't like speaking for the people, but I'm going to say we because I think this was a popular opinion among people who consume this type of content and people who watch Texans football. Who were we saying was going to be the breakout player for the Houston Texans last year? Who were we saying? There's a right answer to this. Who are we saying was going to be the right answer or the breakout player for the Texans? Who are we talking about? Y'all know who it was. It was a very easy answer. Wasn't Tank, wasn't Mechie, wasn't Petrie. We didn't know what Petrie was going to be. It was Christian Harris. We were talking about Christian Harris. Is Christian Harris going to be the breakout guy? Is he going to stay healthy? Is he going to be the dude? Francisco's got it. There's a lot of answers there. If you were saying Dameon Pierce, God bless you. Bless your heart. If you were saying that. But it was Christian Harris. And I found myself the other day. We were talking about the Texans possibly drafting linebackers in the draft and D'Amico wanting a linebacker. And we talked about it. And we started talking about Campbell out of Alabama. And the question was basically, is this the type of linebacker that D'Amico wants? He can go sideline to sideline. He's athletic, all this. And I think Campbell's a better player than Harris. I'm not saying that he's not. Harris had only played when they drafted him linebacker for 3 years. He's only played linebacker for 6 years total in his entire life. But I started having this conversation, and there's a lot of things that I think we can dismiss as this dead or alive thing continues. But is the possibility, and this is fair, Rob Dog. I forgot he played football. Yeah, that's fair. But is the possibility of Christian Harris being the breakout player on defense, is that still alive? Or is it dead? We didn't see much of Christian Harris last year. We warned you right here. We warned you. Me and Cody Stutes, we warned you. We knew that wasn't happening anytime soon. That was very clear. You could see it. Then he came back. We didn't see much. Didn't see him on the field. Kind of just there. Maybe they were being cautious. But the season before, we saw a lot from Christian Harris. Now, he hasn't been able to stay on the field. Azeez Al-Shire, obviously the leader of the defense. Can't cover, though. Henry Toto playing better. But outside of that, is it possible that Christian Harris could be the breakout player of the defense? Someone in the chat, 2 people said it. Shout out to R.A. Tacky and Young Costa. Contract year. I'm going to say it's alive. I think Christian Harris still has the talent. I think the expectations are low. He's got a hell of a lot of talent around him, too. His surroundings, like for a linebacker, you got arguably one of the 3, 5 best secondaries. I don't even know if you have to argue about them being one of the 5 best secondaries, but you got one of the, we'll just be safe and conservative and say top 5 secondaries in the league behind you. You got the best edge duo in the league in front of you. You got one of the best defensive minds guiding you, telling you where to be. It all comes down to health. A lot of times that is bad luck. But I'm not, I caught myself doing it. Just kind of sleeping on Christian Harris and saying, okay, well, what? I'm not even bringing this guy up. I think it's alive. I think it's a possibility. I think Christian Harris could be the breakout guy. He's playing for his NFL life. That's the other thing. You can almost say, assuming that he's going to be healthy, and let's say that's the big if. You can't turn off injuries like in Madden. But let's pretend that Christian Harris is going to be healthy. You can almost make a case that you've got it lined up as perfect as you possibly could to get the best from him. He didn't get some big contract extension. He hadn't shown enough to where he's going to hit the market and break bread. You got a talented linebacker with great surroundings that is foaming out the mouth to try to stay in the league and try to get paid. I think things are lining up perfectly, assuming that he's healthy, for Christian Harris. Matter of fact, if there were odds for this or something like that, it might be some sort of long shot. I would sprinkle something on it. I'm not going to bet a lot. I'm damn sure not going to bet a lot because can't trust Christian Harris to stay healthy. But I'm definitely not saying that this is a dead thing. I think this is very much alive. So Christian Harris is alive. Back to the chat. And again, if you want to get it in, just put dead or alive. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans digital content. Appreciate everyone for looking out for me during the intro of this. with the roadcast. We'll edit that after we shut this down and hit the lettuce.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
But we'll go to Kevin here. He says, dead or alive, the current offensive line talent and depth is better off now than it was at the end of last season. Dead or alive? When you lose Tunsil, it's hard to say that, but I do think it's addition by subtraction. I really do. I think it's addition by subtraction from a mentality perspective. Now, does that mean that Cam Robinson's going to be able to hold it down like Laramie Tunsil does? Probably not, but I think the interior is definitely better. Now, how much better? I don't know. Like maybe we're talking about the difference between and I'm not going to say which one's better, but I'll just say like the difference in quality of a Jack in the Box burger and a Burger King burger. Like maybe we're talking, some of y'all might be like, well, this one's better than the other. This one's better, blah, blah, blah. But maybe that's what we're talking about. Like a value menu Burger King burger versus a value menu Jack in the Box burger. But I definitely think the interior is better. Still might be one of the worst in the league. You have more bodies. We'll say that. But like overall depth, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's alive because you have more guys. I don't know if it's more quality guys. Don't know if it's more quality guys. Young Costa says, never say addition by subtraction again. I'm getting D-Hop trade flashbacks. Look, man, I remember where I was when D-Hop got traded. I was actually on the air in Houston. We completely were crapping on the entire organization and stuff like that. This isn't the same thing as DeAndre Hopkins. This is not close to the same thing. DeAndre Hopkins was a complete total player. You were in a position to where you could spend a lot of money if you so decided. And that addition by subtraction never came out of my mouth. That was what that was. I didn't even like, no one I respected said that it was addition by subtraction with D-Hop. But the Tunsil thing is legit. Even his defenders are saying it's not his job to make other guys better. Well, that kind of contradicts what D'Amico Ryan stands for. That kind of contradicts the iron sharpening iron thing. So I think that there is a certain element of addition by subtraction, and we'll see how that goes. But I wouldn't compare that to the D-Hop trade at all. All right, y'all got to be nice here. Y'all promise that when I bring this one up, can y'all be nice about this, please? I'm not saying you have to, but Can we be nice when I bring up these next two? Because these are two guys who I think the fan base hates more than anyone. Like if I were going to power rank who the fans hate the most, I think these would be the two guys. So I need the chat to be nice with these two. Or not. I don't give a shit. But try your best. Dead or alive? I don't think fans hate Pierce. Someone says Pierce. I don't think fans hate Pierce. How could you hate Pierce? Pierce is fine. Pierce is fine. He's not, he'll come up. Pierce is coming up. But we're going to go to a guy who got, I think, the most unnecessary contract extension I've ever seen in my entire life. Ever. Titus Howard. Titus Howard as a long-term starter on the offensive line. Dead or alive? Dead or alive? Is anyone going to say this is alive? Give me one, 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 give me one. Anyone going to say that this is alive, that Titus Howard as a potential long-term starter is a thing. Anybody, just one person. Give me one person. We're 200 deep here. It's 11 o'clock. We're 200 deep. That's great, by the way. About 200 deep, 11 o'clock on the slow part of the year. Shout out to all y'all. There's not one person who can say this is alive. Stone ain't saying that with a straight face. You ain't saying that with a straight face. Dylan, you ain't serious. Here's my thing with Titus. I think Titus he tried to be Laramie Tunsil, but he didn't. I don't think he handled his body like Laramie Tunsil, and he obviously doesn't play like Laramie Tunsil. But I think much like Christian Harris, although Titus already got paid, I think Titus Howard will, if he has an ounce of competitiveness and pride, maybe Titus comes to camp in shape. You look at Titus Howard early versus Titus Howard the last couple of years, and it's really easy to spot because you just type in, do the exercise right now. I've done this a number of times. Type in Titus Howard and then click images. Look at the difference in him in the old uniforms and the new uniforms. A lot of differences there. But we've seen Titus Howard. Maybe he could be a long-term starter at guard. Maybe he can be a long-term starter at tech. That's dead. Come on. Titus Howard ain't no long-term starter. Y'all really thought I was going to even entertain that possibility? Get the hell out of here with that. Can't believe I even asked that. And all you people saying you think this is a lie, y'all are crazy. I would love for him to prove me wrong. I'm not buying that stock. I ain't buying that stock. Ain't no chance. Long-term starter, no thank you. Bye-bye. ESG Soccer on the soup. You ain't never hate. Swarm. Are you emotionally ready for D'Amico, no O, no offense, all D, to take a defensive end at 25? Titus is a bum, by the way. I'm prepared for the possibility of D'Amico going defense. But D end, that would be a lot for me to endure. That would be a lot for me to endure. But yeah, why redo Titus's contract? So I'm gonna try to. I'm an amateur in this area. Texans Cap is the guy for this, but I think there's a number of things, but. And you guys correct me, Texans Cap, I don't know if he's up or not. I talked to him like 40 minutes ago. But I think if you're going to save money getting rid of Titus Howard, then it has to be a post June 1st cut. And unfortunately, you can't get an IOU. In other words, you can't go up to Cam Robinson really and say, hey, we're going to save this money in June. Just hang around and then we're going to sign you. It's kind of like it doesn't work that way. So maybe it's kind of like effing around with credit card debt. You kind of push it back. You kind of take the L just so that you can get Cam Robinson, who you think might be able to be a starter. I don't try to pretend to be an expert on this cap stuff, but I would say that could perhaps be the reason why they may do such a thing. Shout out to Herman. He says he likes Kelvin Banks at 25. If he's there, should we take him? Wouldn't be opposed. Wouldn't be opposed. Not sure with shots fired at Emeka Ibuka. By the way, he's going to run his 40 tomorrow. Says Ibuka is the Tebow of receivers' number one trade as he hands out Bibles. Didn't Tebow do circumcisions, though? That's a little bit more difficult than Bible. Wasn't Tebow circumcising babies, or did I just make that up? If I made that shit up, goodness gracious. Let me check that. Because if I made that up, where the hell is that going to go? Yes, he did. Okay. Yeah, he did. Okay, I didn't make that up. So Tebow participated in clinics and villages, assisting with dental procedures, cyst removals, and even circumcisions for underprivileged kids. Okay. So I didn't make that up. A hell of a thing to make up. But I guess you don't like Ibuka. I don't like this wide receiver group either. High grade Kush was right, though.
High grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
He was right. Francisco says Ibuka, and we're going Ibuka a little bit. Ibuka has never been the number one wide receiver at Ohio State, always just the sidekick, or am I wrong? You're right. I mean, if you want to take it a step further, sometimes he wasn't even like the main sidekick, but I mean, let's be real. It was a pretty good wide receiver room that he was there with, right? I mean, they were pretty decent, I would say. He played with Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Marvin Harrison, and Smith. So, I mean, it's not like he was at some awful situation and was the sidekick. Yeah, he was sidekicks to Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Marvin Harrison. It's pretty good. So yeah, he was a sidekick. How many guys would be sidekicks there, though, with those guys? Lots. He also played with Terry McLaurin too. So he's been around a lot of guys. So yes, you are correct. If you want to hold that against him, have at it. Continuing. God, y'all are going to be so mean here. God, people hate this guy. Y'all know who this is. We're not getting like dead or alive. Like Dalton Schultz as a top 12 tight end, dead or alive. Last year, he wasn't even in the top 20 production wise. The year before, he was around this range. Contract year. I know he has the third year. That third year, they're not going to pay that. So Dalton Schultz is a top 12 tight end, dead or alive. Nick Caley likes tight ends. He's probably not going to make him block too much like he was asked to before. Dead or alive, Dalton Schultz. As a top 12 tight end. Say about 60 receptions. Dalton Schultz. There is not a single person that is supporting this. He's the 10th highest paid tight end in the league, I believe. Last I checked. He's going to make the 10th highest amount of bread. Dalton Schultz, top 12 tight end production. It'll be interesting to see what he looks like how much kick he has and stuff. I always say that the body language is rough. It sucks, even when he's producing. But, man, it was rough last year. And they really just tried so hard to act like there was like some hidden importance to Dalton Schultz. He was banged up for sure. But, man, we started this thing off talking about the Stefon Diggs decision. Man, basically franchise tagging Dalton Schultz twice last year, giving him the money that they gave him. Awful. Another example of just not being able to spend that increased bread with CJ on the rookie deal. So I'm going to go ahead and say The Undertaker, dead. Kay Hogan, dead or alive, Jawar Jordan and Cade Stover being the most important players from last year's draft. Come on, dude. What? What? You're not even trying to be serious, man. I'm putting Kay Hogan in timeout for that. That's a 5-minute timeout. I'm sorry. You got Kamari Lassiter. You got Blake Fisher. You got to rely on Fisher. You got Kalen Bullock. Dude was trolling. Timeout, man. Nose in the corner. Next, dead or alive, D'Amico drafting defense in round 1. I'm not even gonna front. It's alive. It's very alive. Very, very alive. Is it crazy? Yes. I'm not dismissing the possibility. I think this offensive line thing, do I think it just completely dismisses the possibility of O-line? No. The receivers are not good. They all three, like the 3 names that we're mentioning, could be gone. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is alive. It's very much alive. And I could easily see Demeek, no O, Demeek drafting defense. Just trying to put together the best defense possible. It would piss off a lot of people. But that's beyond alive. Beyond alive. I don't like Starks as much as some do. I don't even think Starks goes first round. We'll see though. He could. I don't like Starks as much. But the possibility of going defense is very much alive. Demeek is there. Everybody knows it. D-line, yes. Can't have enough of them. Can't have enough of them. They might bring 48 D linemen to camp if Demeek has his way. Next, dead or alive, Dameon Pierce in the running back room. Now, this has been an interesting offseason for Dameon Pierce because there's a new system. He already kind of struggled to learn the previous one. He's going into the final year of his rookie deal. He kind of established himself as a decent kick returner, but they've brought in some guys that are probably better kick returners than he is. So the belief that Dameon Pierce is just going to make this roster based on kick returning, I think that's kind of sailed. They also brought back Dare Ogunbowale, who they can't quit. It's broke back. They can't quit. I wish I know how to quit you. I can't. I think that was the contract negotiation. That's exactly what it seemed like. Dare Ogunbowale walked into the room. He sat down. D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caserio sat in front of Dare Ogunbowale. Dare thought they were going to say goodbye to him, but Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans just looked at Dare and said, I wish I knew how to quit you. Here's a $2 million contract. We got to bring you back. He's going to be here till he's 55. I predict Dare Ogunbowale breaks John Weeks' record because they cannot quit Dare Ogunbowale. He's the best football player in the world if you listen to them talk about him. What's that mean for Dameon Pierce? Look, I think the ship has sailed if you're hoping for Dameon Pierce to be a nice complimentary back. There's no two-headed monster. I know he had some nice mop-up duty runs last season. The long run against New England, the long run against the Titans. But when push comes to shove and they really need to trust him, it's hit or miss. It's to the point where you've almost adjusted your eyes when you're watching the Texans because if he's out there, and I think a lot of y'all can relate to this. This is just how I watch it, whether I'm in the press box or whatever. Like the expectation of Dameon Pierce has dropped so much to where if he just gets a random ass carry in the third quarter or they rest Mixon for a series and he goes out there, like I almost feel like, damn, Dameon, he's a big part of things. And it's really not much, but that's how low it's gotten. They've got to get some dogs in that backfield, man. I'm not saying he's not a dog. I'm just saying he's not their type of dog. They don't trust him. They say all this good stuff. Their actions speak louder. They say a lot. They say a hell of a lot. But you need dogs in that backfield, multiple dogs. I'm a dog. Damien's not a top end running back in the NFL. We know that. It's been established. He wasn't even there wasn't like a big workload at Florida. He's never really been that. And they don't trust it. Hell, they were saying that Kenyon Green was looking good last year. They put Shaq Mason back in the lineup. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is dead. You got to get some running backs that you trust. Get the real two-headed monster. Don't neglect the position. Can't do that. No, enough is enough. Enough is enough. You've done a decent job the last 2 years on the top end. I think they deserve credit for getting what they got from Singletary and allowing Singletary to kind of have the year that he had and get the contract that he got from the Giants. I thought they did a good job of that and replacing Pierce. And then I think they did a real effing good job of getting Mixon on the pivot. One of Nick Caserio's best skills, the ability to pivot. This team's not a playoff team without Joe Mixon last year. So that was a hell of a pivot from Saquon to Joe Mixon. Deserve a lot of credit for that. Let's do the same thing on the back end. Joe Mixon's not getting any younger. Get some multiple backs. Figure it out. You're not going to have an awesome wide receiver core. Let's run the rock. Let's maximize Joe Mixon's skill sets. Let's get it. Let's do what we got to see in training camp. Get him the rock. But don't sit there and just focus on adding a top end back and then have Dameon Pierce and Dare Ogunbowale around for 3 straight years. And then all of a sudden when Joe Mixon gets hurt, you're sitting there wondering, damn, why is there such a drop-off? Because y'all ignored it. Y'all ignored it. So that ship sailed. I like Dameon Pierce. I think Dameon Pierce is fine. But there's never been a two-headed monster here for a long time. And all around the league, other teams are like using multiple running backs in like key situations. Figuring stuff out. Churn the running backs, man. Churn the effing running backs. Churn the skill positions as a whole. I actually like what they did with Watson and Berrios. Some competition from at the 5-6 wide receiver. Mechie, Hutchinson, let's see what happens. I didn't even put them in this exercise because I'm not even playing that game. I'm not playing the Mechie breakout game anymore. I'm not playing that. But yeah. Okay, K. Hogan going back to the Jawar Jordan. Oh, yeah. You're talking about the old radio guy, the fake laugher that said that they were the 2 most important rookies. That was a promo. The promo ran that. That's right, K. Hogan. I put you in timeout. You were right. Damn, that was so dumb. I'd forgotten about it. Yeah, okay. I get it now. Yeah, he said Jawar Jordan and Cade Stover were the most important rookies, and they ran that as a promo. It's crazy. That is true. Forgot about that. Shout out to K. Hogan, my guy. Completely forgot about that. But yeah, just start to take the running back position serious, which brings Gamer G Texans fan to this. Omarion Hampton picked 25, the Texans young RB. I'm down with it. I'm down with it. If you think he is that dude, let's go. Give me the 2 Mixons and let's go. Give me the 2 Mixons and let's go. Don't tell me he's too much like Joe Mixon. I don't give a damn if he's too much like Joe Mixon. I think he's a dog. I think Trey Henderson's good. I like Trey Henderson. Trey Henderson's kind of a change of pace. He's an every down type of back. He's good with CJ. Take the running back. Take the running back. There's other ways to figure some stuff out. Would I sit here and say I would rather have a really good running back than a receiver? No, but look at these receivers. Look at these receivers. It's not good. It's not good, but give me Hampton. You're going to have one of the best defenses in the league. That's the one thing that I can say. We can sit here and talk about CJ Stroud situations. We can talk about a lot of stuff. That's not good. You're going to have a good defense. If you have a nice two-headed monster at running back and you at least have your offensive linemen knowing what the F they're supposed to do, you can do some damage. Still going to have Nico. Still going to have other picks to work some magic there. But Omar and Hampton's the guy. Someone's asking about Ollie Gordon. I don't know what's up with Ollie. 2 years ago, I thought he was that dude. He got the D-dub, and then Oklahoma State kind of fell apart. But I'm down with the running back. I'm always down with the running back. It's one of my weaknesses. I thought they would be too. They don't care about it. They really don't. They neglect it. It's neglected. It's a neglected depth position. They have no respect for it. None. It is early in the process, though. So maybe I'm letting my running back bias get the best of me. But come on. Dylan says, dead or alive, the Janke brothers. Boy, wasn't that a crazy preseason bit last year? Crazy preseason bit last year. Rock WP. Dead or alive, will Petrie put it together and get re-signed after this season? See, I like the way that they found the role for Petrie last year. And I think they did a really good job of maximizing his skills and using him at the nickel spot. My only question this year when it comes to Petrie is there's a couple of things. So are they bringing back Jimmy Ward or not? Because that was a really weird extension. And they're bringing back Jimmy. If they do, I'm not saying they are, but if they do, he's obviously not going to start at safety this year, which was kind of like one of the popular topics with Jimmy, where he said that he wanted to be a safety. He didn't want to play nickel. Then last year when Jalen got hurt, he was willing to play nickel. And I think he's a better nickel than Jalen. I know some people don't agree. I think he's a better nickel. He was a top 100 NFL player at the position in San Francisco. Last year, he immediately had the pick six. He was all over the place. He just can't stay healthy. So from that perspective, if Jimmy and Jalen are on your roster, then how are you going to handle that? The other thing is that CJ Gardner-Johnson, he doesn't mind playing nickel either. He'll do whatever you want him to do. So he's capable of doing it as well. So I don't know what that means for Jalen. And we also don't know, like, the corner depth, what they're going to do, if they'll have other guys that are kind of capable of lining up on the inside. I'll be honest with you. I was surprised that, and there was an instance here or there, but I was surprised that more coordinators didn't try to take advantage of Jalen Petrie being lined up in the slot. I still think the cover skills, there's the obvious question marks, but I was kind of a little bit surprised by that. But I did think Jalen had an excellent season when he was on the field. He's the kind of guy that they like. I just don't know what his role looks like with those other guys. And I don't know what he's going to look like when he bounces back. So as far as will Petrie put it all together and get re-signed after the season, I'm going to say alive, but I don't know. I don't know how expensive it's going to be either way, and they like to keep him around. So I would say I don't know that he needs to put it together. I think if he does what he did last year, they'll be pleased. But they like him and they like to keep him around. Something else about Jalen Petrie that I think we can kind of connect to Stefon Diggs, I'll talk about in a second. Because I kind of have an observation about Stefon Diggs, and this is not an uneducated opinion. This isn't some report, but it's not an uneducated opinion. But I think something bothered the organization about Stefon Diggs, and I'll tell you what that was in a second. And I think you can kind of look at Jalen Petrie and Stefon Diggs, and we'll talk about that. But I'll say it's alive. I don't know what the role looks like. I think he's just kind of a guy that they would like to keep around. I don't think teams are going to be foaming out the mouth to sign Jalen Petrie. So I think he can get re-signed. I don't think he's getting like some extension before the season, though. Preston swarming the soup. You ain't never hate. Swarm. What's up, man? What are your thoughts on Big 12 Pro Day? Could be some sleepers. Speaking of those sleepers on the Pro Day, and I don't even know if this guy's a sleeper at all, but a local guy plays running back. I don't think he stops you from getting more of a traditional running back. Local guy. You've probably seen me bitching about his usage on Twitter. I put out some obnoxious videos because I go crazy when I'm watching Texas games. But Jaden Blue, he ran the 40 at the combine. They said that he had a slight tear in one of his muscles. And at the combine, he ran a 4.35, which isn't terrible. That's good. But today at his pro day, Jaden Blue, he ran a 4.28 and a 4.29. Also saw a 4.25 too, which is probably a little bit more like it. He also said on the SEC network that he has upcoming visits with the Texans, Broncos, Eagles, and Steelers. And I got to tell you, this right here, there's a lot of times where you kind of can tell where a prospect like you think might go. Like it seems like there's a lot of assumption. Colson Loveland, Jim Harbaugh, Michigan, just the perfect pairing right there. Sean Payton seems like he would love Jaden Blue. Doesn't that seem like kind of a Sean Payton thing? He got his Evan Ingram / Jimmy Graham. He's got his poor man's Drew Brees with Bo Nix. He still likes to run the rock. But doesn't Jaden Blue, who's one of the best receivers on the Texas team last year, Sark didn't really use him except when he really needed to make a play. He's got small hands, so he fumbles a lot, smallest hands at the combine. But the explosiveness, the highlight tape is as good as anything is. I think he would be a great day 3 pick. I'm starting to feel like with Sean Payton and with Philadelphia is kind of sneaky when it comes to finding those little scat backs. It kind of feels like Sean Payton might just have to have this guy. This might just be his gotta have him type of guy. But I talked to Jaden Blue at the combine. He said that he would like to play for the Texans. But the 4.3 was slow for him. But it's not like the Miami situation where we had Restrepo run the 4.9 or whatever the hell it was, and then come out and say, and he actually deleted the tweet, but he came out and said that he pulled his hamstring, which, by the way, if you watch SNL, and most of you should, if you don't, you're just really missing out when it comes to the Texans coverage. Subscribe to SNL Texans Talk, SNL Texans Talk. Go ahead and do that right now. But Stutz and me called this yesterday when we were watching the Restrepo thing. He put out a long tweet and then he deleted it. But we called this yesterday on SNL. This is from, I'll shout him out after again, too. This is from, down. I'll shout him out after again, too. Stu's going to call it.
Good Lord, he's moving in slow motion.
Said he was going to have the hand.
Go down and grab your leg, man.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Where are these coaches at?
Damn
Start limping, man. Start limping.
So we'll see what happens with that. But I think Jaden Blue's a nice player, nice fit. Be interesting to see what the Texans decide to do with that. So Amba says, so much for Diggs being humbled in free agency, huh, Landry? Yeah. He got a deal. Basically a one-year deal, essentially a one-year deal. Didn't happen. Patriots tax, Patriots desperate, they got him. So yeah, I did not anticipate that happening. There's supposedly an easy out, it's 369, but yeah. Correct. Did not happen. He got a little bit of money. Stefon Diggs. So yeah. Huh, Landry? So much for Diggs being humbled in free agency, huh, Landry? Yep, wrong. I was wrong about that. No doubt. Should probably go get that video, clip it, and take it to the restroom with you. Just some lotion. I'm just playing. But yeah, I was wrong about it. Dylan said, still a solid second faster than I could ever do, but damn, that's slow. Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal, to say the least. The Diggs thing. The Stefon Diggs thing. Now, I do think, and I think that and Rock WP says, dead or alive, Diggs being a locker room cancer. I'm gonna like here. I'm gonna say dead. I'm gonna say dead. He wasn't really a locker room cancer here. Now, is there a shelf life? There's always a honeymoon phase, and then it eventually falls apart wherever Diggs has been for whatever the reason, whether it's his fault or not, it happened. But here he was not a locker room cancer. I will say this. I don't think they liked, and this isn't an uneducated opinion. I think y'all listen to D'Amico a lot. I think that I don't think they loved that Stefon Diggs wasn't here while he was hurt. And to me, if you want to be like a veteran leader and you want to be around the team, and I get these guys have different crews. I get it's a one-year deal. I understand his point of view. So this is not about saying what's right or wrong. I'm not trying to be a D'Amico Ryans defender, and I'm not criticizing what Stefon Diggs did at all. But I don't think that they loved, and this is, again, this is kind of common sense, but it's not something that I'm just pulling out of my ass. You guys know that I'm there every day. I don't think they loved that Stefon Diggs was not there when he got hurt. And you've heard D'Amico, and D'Amico kind of has I don't want to say he's passive aggressive, but a lot of times when he praises one guy, a lot of times it's kind of the opposite of what another guy's doing. He's never going to throw a player under the bus, but you heard him praising Jalen Petrie and Kenyon Green and talking about how they were there every day when they got hurt and they were around the team and stuff like that and still helping the team. He said it with Jalen a lot. And Jalen lives here. Jalen's under contract, so on and so forth. But Stefon Diggs was still under contract. And we only saw him 2 times. We saw him the Netflix Beyonce thing. We saw him, and then we saw him. Was it the Kansas City game? No, it was the Chargers game, right? Yeah, I think it was the Chargers game. I don't think it was going to go freeze in Kansas City. I don't think that they loved, and as far as potentially being a long-term guy, I don't think they loved that Diggs wasn't around the team when he was rehabbing. And why would they? Is that some sort of breaking point or anything like that? I don't think so. But I don't think they loved it. And I think they kind of admired that Jalen Petrie was there. So I think that that's something to kind of keep in mind when it comes to the Diggs situation. You know, and I know these guys all got their own guys that they rehab with and stuff like that. And hell, you're on a 1-year deal. You're trying to figure it out. You're trying to get healthy. You're go see Cardi B. Do whatever you got to do. You know, do your thing. But I think if the Texans, like if I'm D'Amico Ryans and I'm Nick Caserio, like if I'm Stefon Diggs, hey, I'm not from Houston. I don't live in Houston. I can't play football. This sucks. This is the first time I've ever been hurt. I want to be in my comfort zone. I want to have my mind right. I want to sleep in my own bed. I want to do whatever I want to do. Like from his perspective, again, player perspective, good. But from a D'Amico Ryans, Nick Caserio perspective, all right, we're checking this guy out. It's basically a 1-year deal. As soon as he gets hurt, he's gone. I mean, culture, iron sharpening iron, all that type of stuff. I think it's a fair thought and a fair possibility when it comes to the Diggs thing. That's dead or alive, though, here in the locker room. Appreciate everyone for the suggestions. Now, let's get to some of this localized NFL news. Y'all know how we localize. We localize everything. Sometimes it's a reach. Sometimes it's like, how the hell did you make that about the Texans? Because I cover the Texans. I go to the Texans games. I do a Texans stream. Talk about it with Stoots. The hell do you mean? Why do I do that? That's the whole point. But we got a couple things that kind of impact the Texans. It feels like the Titans are taking Cam Ward, right? For better or worse, they're taking Cam Ward. And you kind of listen to some of these reporters, and they're trying to, when you look at like the Rappaports and like the Schefters, like there's always like a slimy element to being a reporter. And I don't say this in a bad way. Like I think to be like a top level CEO or oversee a business, I think you have to have a certain level of full of shit. That's got to be hard to balance, but you just have to be somewhat of a liar. You have to be fake. You have to be phony. It happens. Some people can do it. And some people thrive in it. They embrace it. But to be an NFL reporter, sometimes you like overdo it. This guy's a star player. His agent did this, blah, blah, blah. Rappaport's kind of telegraphing that the Titans are taking Cam Ward without saying it. They haven't made a firm decision on Cam Ward, but come on. I can read between the lines. I think the Titans are taking Cam Ward. He's also kind of hollering at him after he throws at his pro day. Cam Ward's going to be the guy. Which makes it really interesting because all the talk about CJ Stroud and all the talk about, CJ Stroud is learning a new system. Every other starting quarterback in this division is learning a new system too. How about that? Something nobody's talking about. Trevor Lawrence, new system. Daniel Jones, he's their starting quarterback, new system. Cam Ward, new system. So all these guys are learning new systems. Cam Ward might have the Titans playbook by now, if we're being honest. He might be getting a head start. They know that. Then we have the other news, and I think this is kind of like multiple dot connecting. So Russell Wilson goes to New York, which means he won't be in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's got one of those teams in the same tier as the Texans. They're trying to figure some stuff out. It feels like Aaron Rodgers is going to Pittsburgh, doesn't it? Now, Minnesota's being mentioned as a possibility, but it feels like Aaron Rodgers is going to Pittsburgh. Does that scare you? Not really, because we saw what happened with the Jets, but it's kind of a similar-ish situation. Pittsburgh's got some intriguing options at the wide receiver position. I mean, I do think this puts them, and hell, they were there with Russ and they were there with Fields. They're kind of in that same tier as the Texans. But I don't know how this Aaron Rodgers thing goes. It just kind of feels like he's going to Pittsburgh. And that obviously has an impact on the Texans. So we'll keep an eye on that. Preston swarming back to the suit. Appreciate you, mi amigo.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
He says Savion Williams from TCU will be a nice later round pick. Yeah, I like him. Like, how late are we talking? Day 3? I think that's probably about it. I mean, I don't know what he will be in the NFL. I actually think the Texans probably like Brashard Smith, to be honest with you. I don't know when he's going to go. He's got the experience playing wide receiver at Miami. They've met with him multiple times. I think much like the Jaden Blue conversation that we were having, I think even if you draft a running back early, I think Brashard Smith would be someone to keep an eye on. He is a complete football player, and he adds a whole element. If they got Hampton and him, sign me up for that. And I think there's a good chance they like him and they like what he brings to the table. So we'll see what goes on there. And the beauty of this is right now, a lot of the draft focus that we provide, like when it comes to creating talking points and streams and stuff like that with myself and Stutz, a lot of it is centered around 25, what they're going to do at 25. And there's just multiple layers. And this is kind of what we're preparing for right now. That's where this kind of downtime is, where you have day 1 of the draft, probably going to be like an 8 or 9 hour stream. Probably open the lines for that. We probably should open the lines for that. But we're going to have that. Then we're going to have reaction to that, and we're going to have anticipation towards day 2, and then anticipation towards day 3. So sometimes we just don't get ahead of ourselves when it comes to the day 2 guys. But I like some of those names for sure. And I think day 2 is going to be interesting how it sets up for the Texans and what the opportunity is and where they're at and how they attack 25. It's going to be wild. Draft day is one of my favorite days. It's always been like a big bash. No BS. Back in the day, it was go get the draft magazine, know everything you need to know. And you go back to like the Randy Moss, like just post it up from the 90s there, like as a kid, just sitting in the room, reading the newspaper, all that. Then you go get the draft magazine. And then it turned into like the biggest party in the world, to where guys who didn't even like the draft, like in college, coming over and watching the draft. Multiple kegs, punches, jello shots, liquor, all that. It was like the bash of the best. Weekend bash. Just crazy. You'd pass out. Oh, who'll be taking the 3rd round? Oh, but yeah, that big draft guy here. Brandon says Texans take Shamar Stewart. I actually saw him at the airport. He was on my flight back from Indy. He was wearing his combine stuff, believe it or not. He was actually wearing his combine gear. And he had a hell of a combine. I don't know that he's there at 25. I mean, that's a lot of edge guys. But I just went up to him and I just said, "Hey, that was a hell of a performance." He said, "Thank you, sir." It's like, damn, I'm old. He's calling me sir. He was rocking though. You know what he was rocking? He's rocking a 49ers backpack. I don't know what that was about. I don't know if he's a 49ers fan. I don't know if maybe he met with the Niners and they gave him the backpack, but he was on the flight, Southwest flight. How about that? He was at baggage claim rocking his gear. And he had a 49ers backpack, which is wild. I don't know if the 49ers would be thrilled with that or not. It's pretty crazy to knock it out the park like he did. He's a hell of a player. Mike Elko, apparently like kind of a disciplined defense. That's why the production wasn't there, was what they were saying. I don't know. I'm more open to the running back than the D end, but I'm not D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans loves defense. D'Amico for sure. Do I take Hampton early? Yeah, I'll always take a running back. We've gotten into that. Jim said, I read that his mom bought that for him in 5th grade. Are you being serious? The backpack, are we being serious about that? I'm going to look this up. Sometimes y'all get me off sides on these effing comments. Yeah, you're right, dude. How about that? Sometimes y'all just inform me on it. At the scouting combine. So, okay, here we go. At the scouting combine, Texas A&M defensive end Shamar Stewart was spotted carrying a 49ers backpack. Hitting at a meeting with the team, Matt Barrows of The Athletic later confirmed that the 49ers formally interviewed Stewart in Indianapolis, viewing him as a potential addition to help in the trenches. So there you go. There's the backpack thing. Don't know if the mom thing was true or not. But there was the hit there. The mom 5th grade, maybe not true. Might be some fake news. So we'll see how it goes. Who knows? Jahad Campbell at 25, book market. If he's there, it's going to be hard for D'Amico to say no. I'll be honest. And it's going to be pretty easy to get excited about this defense. Now, I don't know what that means for Petrie. Like if they have Christian Harris, Campbell, Aziz, To'o. I mean, we might see them go back to more of a traditional 4-3 with a little less nickel. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Sam said he got me going down the rabbit hole. Hey, it's rabbit hole time. It's damn near 12 o'clock. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Couple hundred deep this time of the year. Never hurt nobody. Subscribe, like, ride along. Always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Fun times ahead. Tomorrow on SNL, 4 o'clock, prospects we hate now. Prospects we hate. Don't draft these guys. That's at 4. Appreciate y'all for rolling through.
Yeah, it's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Ayy, Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Local.